Hey, I just finished a podcast and I think you're going to want to know about this. So let's talk a little bit about lower body strength for now and for later. So, right now, it's probably a little bit more about does my butt look big in these jeans? And how can I look better or smaller or make my waist look smaller by my hips being a little bit rounder and fuller? Whatever it is that motivates you, there is that desire to look good and feel good, have the confidence. Nothing wrong with that at all. But what we're doing right now is really going to have a huge impact on what we're doing in 10 and 20 and 30 years compared to what we want to be doing in 10 and 20 and 30. And I don't know about you, but I'm going all the way for triple digits. So for 40, where are we and what we do is dependent on our lower body strength. So, first of all, I've got a couple of tips for you. If you're not doing any lower body strength, you got to start. And I'm going to share some tools and some tips and a little bit of research with you that just may blow you away. So, stay tuned and stay watching. I'm going to show you 3 exercises and talk a little bit about what happens when you put some of these things together. A study took a group of older adults, 60 to 80 years old, split them into 3 groups. The first used a weighted vest like this, doing squats, 10 sets with 1 minute each and a rest a minute between. The second group used a power plate using whole body vibration. If you want to know more about the power plate here that I'm using and get a significant discount, look at the description. Again, 10 sets, 1 minute. The third group got to do both, combined the weighted vest with the power plate. So they were loading the spine and the upper body as well as lower body and getting the whole body stimulation and vibration that sends waves causing remodeling of bone density. Post testing resulted that, of course, those that did both did better at single leg stance, that's balance, and the up and go test, which is a signal of VO2 and your gait and power out of the chair. Now, look, if you can't do a weighted vest, you could still do no weight, your own body weight. On the power plate, you can be in shoes like I am or stocking foot. Most importantly, find some way to load your bones. There you have it. Here's what I would say to anybody who's not doing exercise. Even body weight squats are better than not doing squats because let's face it, you think you're not doing squats, but every day, if you sit down on and off of a toilet, you're doing a squat. If you sit down to have a meal, you get into a car or out of a car or a bus or something else, you are doing squats. And so the muscles and the joints that move you in and out of that chair, couch, car are going to either continue to play well and perform for you or not. We have to do something about it now if we want to either keep it on the path we're on right now, which may be good, or improve it. And yes, we can. And no, it's not too late. It's not, you're not too old. All of those are simply excuses. You absolutely can. And probably the first place you better start working on is between these 6 inches up here. But number one, if you're not doing anything, start. Body weight is better than not doing anything. But notice that just doing it and then potentially adding a weighted vest to it. So, in my recommendations, what I would tell anybody I was working with in a group or privately, if you're apparently healthy. Now, there could be some other reasons why not, but if you're apparently healthy, the weight of a weighted vest that you'd want is between 10 and 15% of your body weight, no heavier than that. And that's an important distinction to make. So, one of the things you want to do when you're getting it is get used to wearing it. So, that weighted vest is going to come down right here. If you're a woman who already tends to overfire, those upper trapezius muscles in your upper back and into your neck tend to get tense up here really easily. You want to wear that weighted vest, not while you go out for a walk and not while you do another kind of a workout, but while you're making dinner for 10 minutes and then take it off. And just do that a few times a week for the first week or two. Get used to it. And then gradually begin wearing it a little bit longer, doing the same. The first time you take it out for a walk, realize that as you go for a walk, you're already doing something a little bit more strenuous. So go for a walk, but do a lap around the block. So you're only wearing it again 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes at max. and then take it off if you want to go further. Important to condition yourself so that you don't overdo it. Take two steps forward and maybe one step back, but don't ever go the opposite direction. That's how you get used to it. When you cannot do that, potentially you cannot, maybe you've got something wrong with the vertebra, you do overfire, you're a little more fragile in your upper body, and maybe you've already had a fracture, then a weighted vest, my friend, is not for you. So park that one. That's not one that's going to work for you, but there are other things that would. You instead, if you can access it at home or elsewhere, gyms, hospitals, clinics, even nutrition stores now have Power Plate more accessible than ever before. And what I want you to do is try and go and get on that. So, super important if you can't lift heavy, if you can't do high impact, if you're restricted with what you can do with your upper body weight and loading, doing something else is really important so you can control all the variables that are possible for you. So, using a power plate can be extremely beneficial. We've seen increases of 1 to 2% of bone density over a 6 month period of time in doing as little as doing 2 or 3 times a week, 10 or 15 minutes of use of power plate. And we've seen more very specific at the joints, at the hip joint or the lower back joint. We've seen increases of 3 and 4% in over that time. 10 minutes, 5 days a week, or 15 minutes twice weekly. Your choice. All right. So when you combine them, let's say you're doing squats with a weighted vest on that power plate, you have the best of all worlds. You're getting the high frequency and the vibrations that actually are sending signals to the bone with what it will respond with is pushing back and that remodeling that we no longer have as much of as we did when we were younger. But you're also, if you've got the weighted vest on, and you can do that too, you're also loading your spine from the top in a safe way. Now, if you were to ask me about what about going to a gym and using the Smith machine, if that's a little foreign to you, don't get distracted, but it's use of a machine with a bar. So you might be putting the bar here and putting it on your back and loading that with plates and doing squats. I would say never, ever, ever. So I no longer do that. And I haven't for probably 15, 20 years loaded my spine or anyone else's. An athlete, and we're talking elite athletes and just occasional exercisers who were after a goal. We don't load the spine because that compression in the spine really doesn't do us any favors. So I don't load the spine in that way. Even if a Smith machine may be a safer path down and up, I would rather not see you do that. I would rather have you hold a weight down here or get into a leg press machine so you can really favor what's happening at your hip and give it that impact. We can load your spine in another way, but I wouldn't necessarily do it with heavy weights on the back of your neck. So, if you can, you're using more than body weight. You're using a weighted vest or a weight that you're carrying, and maybe both, and you're on a power plate as well, getting that stimulation. You're covering your bone density benefiting muscles and bones from all ways. And I included muscles there because it's not just the impact or the wavelengths going to the bone, but it's when you're working muscle as they insert and they originate from ends of the bone, they're pulling against that bone, also providing pressure that bone responds to and remodels. So all of that works. We used to think 25 years ago that all we could do was slow losses of bone, meaning you were going to continue to lose, but we were just going to put the brakes on how fast you lost it. We no longer think that. We now have evidence that you can reverse bone losses that you've had when you're 50 and when you're 60. I have clients every day sending us testimonials. I'm 67 since May when we started that new program. I've continued to lose 15 pounds and then I just lost another, 15 and gained 3 pounds of lean muscle mass. So, can you gain lean muscle mass after 50 and after 60? Yes. Can you lose fat after 50 and after 60? Yes. Can you reverse bone density? losses? Absolutely. And so you just simply have to start at the right progression. So start where you are, progress very wisely and smartly. The one biggest mistake that everyone makes when they're starting an exercise program is number one, getting so stuck in what do I do that you never start. But number two, it's thinking that I need to know exactly what I should do for the best and the most optimal bone density. But even the most optimal, if you haven't started, you cannot jump right over here because the most optimal is lifting as heavy as you can. And if you could, I would say we'd want you to do potentially 5 sets of 5 repetitions. That means five. You fatigue at five. You can't get any more than that. It's that heavy. But that would be wrong for your joints, your ligaments, your connective tissue to ask you to do something that hard right away. We have to start with higher number of repetitions and a lighter weight to fatigue to train the muscles that both do the work and that do the stabilizing and the joints and the connective tissue so that we very safely overload just enough so that it's between that workout that you did on Monday and that workout you did on Thursday that you're recovering and becoming more resilient. We've overloaded on those workouts so that you repair and recuperate and the body super compensates. It doesn't just compensate and recover, it overcompensates because it says, hey, wait a minute, that was a lot. That was a lot. That might happen again. I need to be able to tolerate that. It's the magic of the human body. So everything is like that. It's going to be like that when we're 60 and we're 70, but it was like that when we were 30. We simply may not have listened as well, and we might have gotten away with it, but we won't anymore because we're not brand new anymore. We are a little older. The ligaments in the joints are a little bit older. Don't let that hint to you that you're too old to do it or you're more vulnerable. Not exercising correctly, not lifting weights is far more risky than lifting weights ever will be. If you have questions about the power plate, about a weighted vest, about combining the two, about what else that you could do for bone density or gaining lean muscle mass or optimizing your body composition, like Joan, the story I told of that 67-year-old, let me know. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and I will see you on the flip side.